Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Fowd, and today I just want to share with you this broadcast and just share the word of God. Nothing really prepared. Maybe a little nervous. I'm not so used to this. I'm also not so used to standing before cameras. I'm very camera phobic. But I just want to share this as something for us to ponder. Sorry, to think about. And if I was to give it a title, I would call this Responsible Christianity. In the world that we live in today, there is an issue. There is a conflict between works and grace. And there is there are a lot of sermons, a lot of interpretation, and people are talking about works and grace and works, and we were in the era of works, or the religious rather period was the era of grace, or no, it was the era of works. And after Christ died, we received grace, so we don't need to work, we don't need to do anything, we are covered. You see that? And I also have something to input. I have something that I've been thinking about, and I just thought to myself, it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't serve any purpose to just think it in my head and just leave it at that point. So I thought, let me try doing something, maybe speak in here, or maybe this might help somebody, or this might give an insight, or this might also help me to think better. I'm not perfect, so whatever things that I'm saying here are not perfect. Whatever you think about that I may be, kind of stepping out, you are free to leave a comment in the comment section, and we can engage and try to see how this one is. Now, I really personally have a problem with the omission of work, or pitching grace against works, and saying that because Christ died, we don't need to work. It was covered, it was paid for, so we only need to believe in Jesus, and after we believed in Jesus, that faith is covered, so that's it. What is my understanding? My understanding is that grace gave us, or I just want to elaborate this a little. Works, when you talk about works, charitable deeds, being kind, loving people, being without corruption, being undrunken. I don't know if that's English, like you don't drink, staying away from sexual perversion and all those things. You are like very determined to stay away from these things. You don't want to be corrupted. That's what I call responsible Christianity. You don't want to speak vulgar language because you want to be a good example or a light out in the world or something like that. Now, in my understanding, Christianity is supposed to be the change for the world. I think that one is very clear out in the Bible. All of us have read where we are the light of the world, a city upon a hill. We've read that, But I just want to put it in a non-biblical, or from a non-biblical language or bring it into, the common lazy talk, street talk kind of a thing for us. And I just want to say that Christianity is supposed to be the savior of the world in terms of character, in terms of how we carry ourselves. But there is a big problem. If we take these works, or responsible Christianity, and pitch it against grace, and then most of us are actually aligning towards grace, and we're saying because grace has been provided to us for free, we don't need work. You get that? If you asked me, if I was to pitch works against anything, according to the Bible, I would pitch works against faith, not grace. You get that? You see, I would definitely pitch faith against work, or work against faith, according to the way I understand the Bible. But when I talk about, or when I think about grace, I think about The power that has enabled me, that enables me, or this strength, that this, I think about it beyond an unmerited favor to be accepted by God. I think about it as this divine power to help me to overcome sin. So what is sin according to the way I understand it, or the way I would put it out is, sin according to me is, I'm not really sure if I'm on focus or in focus rather. Sin according to me is just works. Sin is works, and righteousness is also works. Like when we talk about sin, we're talking about our daily living, the way we live, the way we interact with people, the way we do things, the things we think in our heart, in our minds, and we contemplate in our hearts, those are what, comes out as sin or not sin. You get that? As the law would say, do not kill, do not murder, and once those, that there is always a comparison of law and grace. I think that's right. And then faith and works, and then there is a confusion. There is a confusion today that now we are replacing works with grace. That's kind of confusion. Now you see, the place where this confusion of today comes in is the place where the law was telling us to not do certain things. Do not. Do. And now all that was work. It was work. And then now we are saying we don't want to work. We just want to embrace grace. And when we embrace grace, we are covered because grace is given to us free of charge. But I don't think that is it. I don't think that every work is equal rather to law. I don't think that every work, when say I don't insult people, I am walking by the law or following the law. So I'm supposed to insult people so that I, be above the law and embracing grace. You get that? So when I dress properly as a Christian, someone would say that is religiosity, that is being religious. You don't have to dress in a certain way, for you to go to heaven because grace has covered the way you dress. You get that? So we are living an irresponsible Christian life today because we think that the opposite of grace is works, and the opposite of works is grace. And it's because the opposite of grace is actually laws, and laws say do not do, which is works. But you will just agree with me that to live in this world, whether righteously or in sin, it's all works. For me to fornicate, that is works. I'm working towards that. I have to get myself out and go and dress myself. I have to stimulate the mind of the person that I want to fornicate or to do adultery with. And that's work, you see. If I have to steal, I can't just steal. I have to think about it. I have to wake up. I have to put on whatever I need to put. I need to do my background check and all those kinds of things. And after I'm done, I need to go. And that is work. It is work. So we can never say, if we say that it's an era of grace, therefore we don't need to work, and then sin, we are still working. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else. We're still working, so it's all work. There's no, as long as you're alive, it's all work. For you to live, for you to be someone, for you to interact with people, for you to pay your rent, for you to eat your food, for you to record this sermon or whatever this is, it's all work. It's all work. But then there's only a problem when this work is on us living right. That's when we run from work and then we embrace grace, which is hypocrisy in my view. Why is it that it only works when we are called to be on the right, when we are called to walk rightly or righteously? Why is it that it's only at this point that we call it works? But then, when we are sinning, we are actually working. We don't call that work.
And then we want to say that when we are walking on the other side, that is on the negative side, on the side of sin, grace has covered us. I don't know if I'm the only one who has problems with this. Why is it so that when it's now time for us to work towards our salvation, that's when grace comes to cover us? But when we walk towards sin, I don't know why it is that when we are only when we are walking towards, or when we are walking in sin, that is only when we call for grace to come and cover us. But we cannot walk in righteousness. So for a Christian, there's no excuse, because whichever way you are walking, the question is, who are you working for and how are you working? What are the works that you are doing? You cannot say that you will work in sin so that you attract grace to cover you because you believe in Jesus, and you cannot walk in righteousness because, again, grace has covered you. So the righteousness that you have is the righteousness of Christ, which is actually the scriptures. But when it comes to works or walking righteously, talking nicely to people, doing community work, being charitable, being merciful and kind, loving and forgiving people, just doing nice things, doing good things, not nice things, it becomes a burden, it becomes work, it becomes something you don't want to do. That's a responsibility, in my view. And then it is responsible for us as Christians to embrace, loving people, being kind to people. It's work, because if you don't love people, you will hate people, and hating people is work. It is work. So the opposite of work can never be grace. It can never be grace. What is grace according to me? It is that divine ability, away from how we interpret it as an unmerited favor, to be acceptable before God, or to be accepted by God, even though we are not Jews. Away from that, to me, grace is that divine ability to be able to do the right things without ever failing. Because to do right is not easy. To do right is not easy. Loving people is not easy. Being kind, generous, no, it's not easy. Someone is just doing a lot of evil and you don't, or you cannot speak, you can't do anything. It's not easy. It's not easy. But then grace is that divine power that enables me to withstand. It enables me to want to do the right thing even when my body says no. You can't do that.